What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news on the green and gold Green Bay Packers. And a happy Tuesday to all of you watching out there. And a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Not sure if you're signed up for Underdog Fantasy yet, but if you were yesterday, tons to tune into for that national championship game. My gosh, I know this is a Packers channel, but hey, maybe some of these guys we saw on the field between Indiana and Miami could be future Packers. Nonetheless, some exciting picks to make on Underdog Fantasy for that game and many more in the future. If you play your first $5 with this code up here, you can win $75 in bonus entries. So make sure to go and do that. So, what a national championship. I know we're here to talk NFL. I know we're here to talk about Packers, but man, tons of exciting stuff to see there. Tons of exciting stuff on Underdog Fantasy. Make sure to check them out. But nonetheless, got a busy show today talking about the defensive coordinator role for the Green Bay Packers. Hafley officially is out in going into Miami. He's out of Green Bay. He is traveling very far south from the freezing cold to the very warm temperatures of Miami, where that national championship was just played, where the Indiana Hoosiers did take down Miami. It's Miami-filled episode today, to say the least. But Jeff Hafley officially inking that contract to become the next defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Apologies. And you got to just, give him props. I mean, what a career for him. A head coach with Boston College, comes over to the Packers. He's their defensive coordinator for 2 years. Then he gets a head coaching opportunity, get interviews with multiple teams, up to 6 of them, I believe, and finds success and, positive energy, good stuff on both sides with the Miami Dolphins. It seems like both sides are rather pleased that Hafley is going to be with the Dolphins. So curious your guys' initial reactions to this. Are you sad that Hafley's gone? Did you want him gone after that playoff blunder? Curious your thoughts. My personal opinion, I thought Hafley was great for the Packers in the 2 seasons he was with them as their defensive coordinator. Couldn't really ask for more. Again, don't get me wrong. That defensive blunder, 25 points in the fourth quarter to lose. Woof, that was bad, but lots of miscues on both sides of the ball in that playoff game as a whole. And you look at Hafley and his tenure with the Green Bay Packers as a whole, in my opinion, it was pretty good. Want to get into some of the numbers of those tenures, though. And don't get me wrong, 2025, a lot of these numbers did dip. But the Packers, lots of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Really hard when you have guys like Devontae Wyatt being out for the year. Micah Parsons in the stretch of the season, then done for the year. Lots of names left and right that are hurt. Guys like Lucas Van Ness, who was hurt, then he's back, then he's hurt, then he's back. So a tough defense to guide, to say the least. And a cornerback room that was pretty thin this season, with really just Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine. You had other guys behind him. Nate Hobbs, who was there, another guy that's playing, then hurt, playing, then hurt. So, he had a lot to deal with. I think overall, Hafley did a pretty good job. But we start off 2024, Jeff Hafley, a very strong year with the Packers as their defensive coordinator. These are the stats across the NFL. In points allowed, the Packers were 6th. Total yards allowed, they were 5th. Rushing yards allowed, 7th. Passing yards allowed, 13th. Those are some pretty strong numbers, and, they definitely proved to be true with how that 2024 season panned out. Again, another unfortunate playoff loss, but only gave up 22 points in that loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. You go to 2025, though, and lots of these categories dip outside of the passing yards. You go to the points, from 6th in 2024, went to 11th in 2025. From yards, went from 5th in 2024 to 12th in 2025. For rushing yards, went from 7th in 2024 to 18th in 2025. That is the big, bleeding thumb out of this whole group. But then you go to passing yards, was 13th in 2024, a little bit better in 2025 at 11. So, 2025, a not as good season for Hafley, but Packers with tougher competition, in my personal opinion, with that schedule and, lots of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. I know you don't want to make excuses. You're like, hey, he's here to be the defensive coordinator. He should be ready for no matter who's on the field, but you still have to look at the picture as a whole and kind of see why maybe some of these numbers ended up the way they did. But in my personal opinion, you guys can leave your thoughts. I think Hafley was great for the Green Bay Packers. I'm sad that he has to go. Out of all the defensive coordinator options, if I had to compare them to Hafley, I would want Hafley above them all. That's not to discredit the possible guys that the Packers could have, but it just felt like Hafley fit really well. It's unfortunate it was a short tenure with Green Bay. But that's going to take me on to the next point. And, I'm talking about him. I'm praising him. I enjoyed his time in Green Bay. Micah Parsons reacted to Hafley's hire, posting something on X. The initial post was Adam Schefter breaking the official news with Hafley being hired as the head coach of the Dolphins. And Parsons replied to that post saying, "Generally happy for Haf. Great guy, great person. Gonna miss his energy." 3 exclamation marks, scattered throughout those couple of sentences there. So really shows, Parsons was just here this first season in Green Bay, didn't even play the full season, but clearly gained a very, very close connection to Hafley. really shows, the Hafley, even his media availability, his post-game interviews, his press conferences, all of those things. It's just, I really am going to miss watching those. A very positive guy, a very nice guy. Seems like everyone in Green Bay loved him. I know I enjoyed having him there. And again, curious your thoughts. Are you happy that Hafley's gone and that they're trying to find someone else? Are you sad that it only lasted 2 years? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I am definitely sad that he has to go, but when you get a head coaching job with a team in the NFL, it's really hard to turn that down. So best of luck, best wishes to Jeff Hafley with his time with the Miami Dolphins. Before we get into the next point, got to give a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the gridiron action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick if your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm kind of looking a little bit far in the future. This Seahawks game against the Rams, man, hopefully this game lives up to the hype. Hopefully it's cinema. We saw the Seahawks blow out the Niners 41-6. Really hoping it's a closer contested game against another NFC West opponent in the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm definitely going to be looking at that game this week. You guys feel free to let me know in the comments what you are looking at, or if you were really bought in on the college football playoffs. But nonetheless, what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FOOTBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code FOOTBALLFAN. Underdog, make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
I welcome you back to Packers Latest, now talking about two possible names that I did not mention in last video that could be, a consideration for the Packers' new defensive coordinator. One of these names I feel like has a very strong chance. The other one, it's a long shot, but still want to talk about him nonetheless. The first one that I think has a strong chance for the Packers is Eagles defensive back coach Christian Parker. Got lots and lots and lots of notes on him here. An article by Brandon Carwile of Packers Wire provided me with a lot of these, so a huge shout out to him. Go make sure to read that yourselves, even if you hear a lot of it out of my mouth in this video. Packers Wire does such a great job covering the Green Bay Packers. Get tons of my notes from them, so again, make sure to check them out. But in this article by Brandon Carwile, really highlighted Parker, just what he could bring to the Packers, his connection, his history, tons of that. So let's get into it. One thing to note, Parker is only 34 years old, but he's kind of already viewed as, one of the rising stars for, a defensive coordinator candidate. Really nice to see a younger guy, get that much praise. He's had the deep experience, but he's younger and he's getting all the way up to this level. Shows pretty high promise, especially if you're to hire a guy for a couple of years. He previously interviewed for the Packers defensive coordinator job, but Matt LaFleur did take Hafley instead. That's actually something that I did not know until, doing some research and reading on him. So I actually find that very interesting that, he's kind of been in talks with the Packers. This isn't a new name to them. It's someone that they were looking at. LaFleur did go with Hafley instead, but hey, now Hafley's gone. Maybe things can change. LaFleur definitely knows this guy's name, this guy's face, lots about him. This is not someone new, despite him not being with the Green Bay Packers. This also talks about how LaFleur and Parker do have a history, because Parker worked as a defensive quality control coach in Green Bay during LaFleur's first 2 seasons. So he has been with Green Bay. Then he had, little stints in between. He had a chance to come back to Green Bay at a higher role as a defensive coordinator. LaFleur did end up going with Hafley. So he's connected in all these little ways, which I kind of like when the Packers go to hire someone. We talked about that in the previous episode, looking at 2 guys, on the Packers staff are ready to possibly make the defensive coordinator. This is a guy currently not with the Packers, but has been with the Packers, has the connection. So it's kind of a little bit mix of both. You look at his resume since he left Green Bay. He was the defensive backs coach for the Broncos from 2021 to 2023. And then he's been the Eagles defensive back coach and pass game coordinator the last 2 seasons. So again, with LaFleur in those first 2 seasons, then went on to Denver, then to Philadelphia, and now possibly could find his way to circle back to Green Bay. He did have major success in Philadelphia. You look at how he helped build that Super Bowl winning secondary in 2024. I know he wasn't the true defensive coordinator there, but you look at the secondary as a whole, a strong secondary, a big reason why Philadelphia was able to not just reach the Super Bowl, but win it. He also coached 2 AP first team All-Pro corners in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. And you even kind of you go back to his Denver days, 2021 to 2023, coached a guy by the name of Patrick Surtain II. You know who that is? You probably do, because he's one of, if not the best corner corner in the National Football League. So really, high praise that I have for Parker. You look at this history, you look at the names that he's had with him, and you look at the ones, like I mentioned, with Quirion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, young guys developing quick, getting good quick. I know you're picked high in the draft. That doesn't always mean you're going to pan out. It's not always a guarantee. Sometimes guys don't transition if they don't have a great coach. Clearly, that was not the case with DeJean and Mitchell when they were under Parker's guidance. So I think that it is definitely an interesting, in a good way, interesting possible target for the Green Bay Packers. I would absolutely love to see him as a defensive coordinator. Still think, you got big names like Raheem Morris. We talked about Parker's pretty young. You got guys like Raheem Morris who are older, lots of more experience, especially as a true defensive coordinator. Someone like Parker, you're taking a chance, his first time being in a role like that at the NFL level. Sometimes it could bring uncertainty. But I definitely like this as a candidate. Maybe my second favorite candidate out of the couple names that we've listed. Going to go into one more. We can call it a candidate. I'm calling it a long shot. Could Sean McDermott be a consideration? The Buffalo Bills officially fired now their former head coach, Sean McDermott, after that unfortunate playoff exit. Just it kind of feels like a sentence you say every year, an unfortunate playoff exit for the Buffalo Bills. Just another heartbreaking loss for the Bills, still trying to reach a Super Bowl when they've had McDermott, when they've had Allen. That the combination of those two were still searching for just a Super Bowl appearance and could not get there once more. So McDermott, he was fired by the Buffalo Bills, and you know that this is going to be a huge target for a lot of teams around the NFL. The reason that I call this a long shot, it is likely that McDermott is going to take a head coaching job somewhere else. I would be shocked if he goes from the head coach of the Buffalo Bills with no one to then a defensive coordinator. He does have a defensive background. I will get into this, but again, this is a long shot. I think he will be a head coach somewhere, probably a team like the Ravens. But again, let's just take a look at him as a whole, because why not? And look at his coaching history. He was with the Eagles from 2001 to 2010, multiple different roles there, ending up as a defensive coordinator from 2009 to 2010 in that back end of his tenure with Philadelphia, which transitioned him to be the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers from 2011 to 2016. And then that transitioned him to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills from 2017 up until just yesterday. So again, a defensive-minded coach. He has the defensive experience that got him that head coach role. Again, McDermott, he couldn't get it done. He couldn't reach the Super Bowl, but man, he had 5 division titles, I believe. He was there for 9 seasons. I believe he made it with Buffalo 8 of those 9 seasons into the playoffs. So he clearly is a winner. He clearly is a head coach level type of job, despite being fired as a head coach. It's just the Bills where they are to set up, success-wise to win, to get to that Super Bowl. They're right there. McDermott's not the guy to do it, but with other teams, I know that they would love to have McDermott. So again, that's a long shot. It's very, very, very unlikely, probably a 1% chance, but you still got to check off the name when a new coach appears as a possible candidate for all teams across the NFL. But that's all I got for this episode of Packers Latest. I appreciate you all tuning in as always, and go Pack Go.